Our next conversation is going to be about using tech for civic engagement. And there's a lady who rose to fame. Rose to fame.
Well, I see what you did there. You're proud of yourself.
It just came. I didn't even
try.
Her name is Rose Njeri. Rose is in the tech space. She'll tell us what exactly she does, but Rose, karibu sana. Yeah, this is where we fix the nation. But man, we're doing it here. You're doing it in a very big way, in a big way, bigly.
Bigly. Big fixer.
Yeah, karibu. We'll have a conversation shortly, but Jano will welcome you with the day's quote.
Yeah, the day's quote is by Trevor Noah. He said it in 2019. If the system doesn't work for everyone, it's broken. Your reflections on that?
If the system doesn't work for everyone, it's broken. I think I agree. I agree because the minute someone feels disenfranchised, then it's a recipe for chaos. So yeah.
Yeah, the system needs to work for everyone.
Yes.
True.
Yeah.
The more of us feel disenfranchised, the worse.
The worst. Rose, what's your professional background?
So I'm a bit of a jack of all trades. I have education in BCom, and I've worked in advertising and communications. And in the recent past, I started my own agency for branding and websites. And so I've also now been upskilling in the tech space, which is how now I've ended up fully in the tech space. Yes.
What informed the move to tech? Well, you were following the money.
I was following the
Yeah.
money. I was following the money, and then you find yourself hooked to, learning how this code works, and it's an interesting. At the end of the day, because I used to also write, code is also just writing, but in a machine-specific language. So it just, for me, it just flowed. It's just, a natural transition.
Right.
A creative who was writing, and now she's decided to creatively write
To creatively
code.
write, to creatively write code.
Creatively write code,
Yeah.
and see how it works and how it benefits us.
And so you, even along with that line, I'm just trying to understand how it moved to that, to creating this platform that ended up making you make national news. Was it the first kind that you developed before? Were you still dabbling? And what exactly were you trying to build there?
Okay, so for the past 2 years, I've been fully creating tech solutions. I've made websites for clients, that sort of thing. And at the same time, I've also been involved in being an active citizen, especially after last year's June 25th, or, it wasn't just 25th, the whole period.
The first half of last year.
Yes. So it awoke something in me. So I have been building things, first of all, as a way to create my portfolio. And second, things that align with basically my beliefs. So I've made a few other tech solutions before the finance emailer, finance bill emailer. And I was making them to basically, they were being used by my friends. It wasn't being used outside of the people who know me, and some aren't even using because some are not even that tech savvy. But I've been doing this, and then after the emailer, things just got out of hand.
They blew out of proportion.
Yes.
What was that emailer thing? Just take us through like we just don't know what these things are.
Okay. So, first of all, a lawyer on the timeline went through the finance bill and said there are these aspects of the bill that we should as Kenyans not agree with. And he made basically a write-up and put it on Google Docs and said, if you want Kenyans, please go copy-paste this and send to the emails, the CNA and the finance committee.
Yes.
So then someone else was like, last year there was this email platform where you could just click and it will send. So who can make that for us? And I was like, yeah, let me do it. So I did. And I went on with my life because, it's like, okay, I've done it, it's working,
Right.
and people are using it. 10 days later, I get arrested and everything, basically.
What was happening? So you created a link. So the lawyer created a Google Doc.
Yes.
Where you go and read and see this part is wrong, this is why, this part is wrong, this is why. You could copy that, put onto a body of an email, send it as Eric.
Dear clerk,
Right?
send it. Then you
Find attached.
Yeah.
With kind regards. I hope this email finds you well. I'm a concerned citizen of the Republic.
Yes.
Attached is a minor.
Yes.
With kind regards, or yours faithfully, whatever you want to choose. This thing that you created, what was it doing?
So this was a basically simple, easy way of you to be able to, instead of going to Google Docs, copying, going to your email, then you go back to look, what's that email address? All of this was put together on this email platform. So at the top there is the subject. I mean, who is it addressed to?
The recipient's email.
The recipients. So that's the two emails. And then you can choose to send to one or you can choose to send to both. And then there's the subject, which it was already in the Google Docs. So I just put it there, but you can edit. So if you agreed, you would have also just said, I agree with the bill. And then there's the content, which I copy pasted from the lawyer's Google Doc. And then down there you just click send and it goes.
Does it have from?
Does it have? Yes. And when you click send, it takes you to your emailing platform. So if it's Google, Yahoo, whatever you're using. And at the bottom there you sign. You say yours sincerely, Eric or Janet. And then you click send. So it will be sent from your
From
email address with your IP. It's not automatically sent.
So the clerk will receive an email from Eric Latif,
Yes.
a different one from Janet Bogwa,
Yes.
another one from Rose, another one from Mariam, and so on and so forth.
Yes.
Different emails, they may have the same heading or subject, but they are different sources.
Yes.
Right. Now we fast forward to your arrest. You were at a graduation.
Yes.
At your graduation.
It was a short course graduation.
Yes. It's a graduation.
It is a graduation.
Yes.
I for my business, which is it's in the creative industry. I was part of the Sanara program, which is run by Hiva Fund and a bunch of other companies, and we were graduating up like 200 people or so or above. I don't know. We were a big crowd at Baraza Media Lab on Enterprise Road. So we were there, we were graduating. At the end of the graduation ceremony, when we were now going to eat and leave, was when now they came for me. And they came specifically where I was and called me by name. And for me, it's all chaotic from that point to when I eventually end up in the cell. But
in this case, who was they? Did they identify themselves?
They showed an ID, but in a hidden name, DCI, and then they put it
They
back.
always do that.
So you're not sure. Exactly. And they're in plain clothes, and these are Subarus, and you see these stories. So you're like, I'm not sure where this is going to go. So it was a scary around 3 hours. Because also they were like taking me around it. It wasn't a straight journey. Yeah.
Oh, they were taking you around when you were driving. Were they saying anything to you?
Yes, they were really verbally abusive. But luckily they weren't physical, apart from grabbing my phone, which ended up with a few scratches on my hands. But they weren't physical at least, but they were really, by the time we were at the DCI, I was like, I must have done something else. So I was scared, I was terrified.
I must have committed an actual crime.
Yeah.
And then I forgot about it.
Yeah.
So what did they say? What sorry, I don't mean to pry, but when you say they were verbally abusive, what kind of things were they saying?
Or just that, tumepatana na watu kaa wewe mara kadhaa, tutakukata, like we'll cut you down to size. Hiyo kimbelembele yako, umekuwa ukitutafuta ndio sisi hawa. But now, like, continuously too. Wewe Rose, wewe. Things like that. So you're terrified, you don't know where they're going, you're not sure they're the government, but then also now you start thinking, what else have I done? Because I had bought a phone from someone. Maybe it was those stories we hear,
That you buy a phone and it was used in a crime, and now you're implicated or something of that sort.
Yeah. So you also start questioning your own reality, like I must have done something. Then in the end, when they told me what it was that they were arresting me for while at the DCI, that's when I was able to calm down. And even them, it's like wali become more humane. Like they now stopped being too harsh. Now it was just asking questions, writing the statement. And they were now talking to me like a person,
like
not like
being.
Yeah.
Same officers that arrested you.
Same, yeah. Same.
Something changed. Going back a little bit to the graduation around your arrest, you were with friends and family. Did anybody try to say, I want to go with you? And they were like, no, where's Kuja now?
No, I was alone. I was on my own. But with the new friends that I've made, because when you're in a course, naturally you make friends. And some of them were like, afterwards, it happened, I think, too fast. And afterwards,
We
we
just
should
come,
have.
they prick you and they move out with them. You don't realize what's going on.
Yeah, then they were like, we should have followed the car. We should have. Someone had the presence of mind to record like a short clip before one of the DCIs was like, where is my simu?
Wow.
So I think it's also that thing for even kama ingekuwa we ungekuwa hapo, I think hata we ungestuka kwanza. And then these are people who don't know you that well, so they'd be like, maybe she actually did do something,
It's a tricky position.
It's a tricky position.
But then what did they charge you with now? At DCI, you write a statement. They tell you they're charging you with?
They were... At the DCI, the statement was basically, why did you make this emailer? And why did you make... I made another Chrome extension. It's okay. It changes the president's name to one of his nicknames. So they asked me about that as well. And then they asked me about other projects. There's one that's called an insult tracker. They asked about it, but none of these other things appeared on the charge sheet. The only thing they focused on the charge sheet was the
tech emailer.
Yes, the emailer. So from that Friday to Tuesday, we weren't being allowed to see the OB. My lawyers weren't being allowed to see the OB. So we don't know what they wrote I had done until that morning when we went to court and they brought the faulty charge sheet which identified me as male and had typos that now said that I committed a cybercrime act. Yeah.
A cybercrime act. Were there any details aside from that?
Basically, they were saying that I was... So the email platform that I've just explained was that it was automatically sending emails, not that it was...
So it was spamming, basically?
Yes, spamming the committee and,
and the Senate.
Yes.
But it wasn't spamming.
No.
Because I've gone back to what Rose was saying, what she developed, and I'm just like, they woke up and said, this is spam. Do you think, were there numerous emails going to the committee based on what you created? Because I remember last year when people were creating those, a lot of us sent.
You just
So there was quite a number of them.
Before my arrest, I think maybe, I don't know, as I said, I'm still learning. So I'd put a timer, but then it like broke something. So I just removed account. So it broke something in the code, so I just removed it. So I don't have a quantifiable amount.
Okay.
Of how
but
many emails were sent,
But before my arrest, I'd say maybe like at most 10,000, but maybe less. After that, now there must have been many.
And again,
for sure.
this requires you to put in your name to sign off at the end.
Yes.
And then it takes you to your email. So it requires intentionality.
Yes.
Spamming is
Just automatic.
As an activist now, let's talk as an activist. And the aim here is, first of all, to create civic awareness and people to know, and then to take action, okay? So where is the thread between seeing a document and sending it? How do we know that Mariam, as she's clicking this to email, she's actually read through this, understood and agreed with the contents of this one document that's been generated by one person, and now she's sending it to say that these are my objections. Because the objections are word for word. If you get 1,000 objections word for word saying the same thing, I mean, there's a point where you say, okay, apart, surely. 17 people saying, hi, Janet, good morning. Hi, Janet, good morning. Hi, Janet, good morning. From different numbers. Saying exactly the same thing. Hi, Janet, good morning.
That's what templates do.
Exactly. Utafikiria imetoka wapi? Utafikiria huyu ni mtu mmoja anatumia namba mingi kumtumia SMS.
It just goes to the level of not.
What I'm asking is here, how can you now that you're here and you're involved in this, your intention here is not to spam, obviously.
Yeah.
The intention of the lawyer was also not to spam, obviously. The intention for both of you, and even for many people who are sending this, is to communicate. But for you to communicate, you need to learn. How can you improve this so that we have more people actually interacting with information and then taking action?
I think what I could do maybe if there's a next time is ensure that there's a bit of an explainer before the sending. So and give you maybe a few more points. Like make sure you read something before you get to the point where you're sending things. Because
I want to come back soon to ask a little bit more about the other tools that you're developing, but I want to take you back, if you're okay, to just share that experience that weekend, in Cell, and what it shifted in you.
The experience was not nice because it was my first time in jail. It was my first time under police, custody. And in cell, you sleep on the floor. You don't have a mattress, a blanket, vile tu uko. So that wasn't nice. And I still do have a condition, an anemic condition. And at the time I was controlling it by diet, but now I'm on medication. So I feel like it exacerbated the condition being there, and then the stress. It was not a very good experience, and it makes one angry when you think about the fact that whatever I did didn't really deserve that kind of treatment. They could have summoned me to the DCI instead of coming for me the way they did. They could have followed the proper channels, sued if you were suing, but properly, you didn't have to put me through all that. So what it awoke in me is, before I was an active citizen, for sure, but now it's like more deliberate. Sasa I'm more keen, especially on the economic aspect of things, because while sitting there in cell, I was just thinking, ni nini hii hawataki watu wajue? Like, what is it about this bill? Even me, I wouldn't say I'd read it properly. But now, after that, I looked at it, I was like, okay, what's this bill really saying? And then after my experience, I also got to interact with people who deal with, in this space, economists, people who understand the treasury things, the debt, the things that basically inform the bill.
The budget and the finance bill, yeah.
Because at the end of the day also, when you're budgeting, you also need to look at the expenditure side. What are they budgeting to do with the money? So it's made me more deliberate, basically.
For sure. More intentional. I can also hear it. It's the same for a lot of people. Like a lot of us before last year, very limited understanding of our budgeting process.
Yeah.
And now up to last year, we understood that there's this thing called a finance bill that then determines what we're trying to collect, what we're trying to spend in the next year. Okay. Then this year it's come to, we have an even deeper understanding where we start from. It's it starts from estimates, and before that, we've all gone deeper and deeper into it. And I like that you've gotten more deliberate. Would you say post now, this is now Monday morning, right, when you are brought to court?
Tuesday,
it was Tuesday, because Monday was a holiday. Yes, Monday was a holiday. When you're brought to court, the judge looks at the charge sheet. What does he say?
So from my understanding, what's supposed to happen when you're brought to court, you're supposed to say whether you're guilty. You read your charges and you say guilty or not guilty.
Yes.
But the reading of the charges was faulty. So the lawyers, the many senior and very experienced team that was there that I didn't expect, by the way.
You didn't know they were coming?
I didn't. I walked in and it was a surprise. Like everything was just.
Who did you know were your lawyers?
LSK, that's Ian Motiso, Samogola, and Joshua
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Then you get to court and you have senior counsel.
Exactly.
Yeah. So they basically challenged the charge sheet in the first place. So I never got to take plea because there wasn't
There was a faulty charge sheet.
yeah, there wasn't anything to plead for or against. Yeah.
It's true. If it says you're male, yeah. Again, if the charge sheet is faulty, then yeah, what are you taking plea on?
Yeah.
Okay, so then you were let go on bail, on no terms. What did the judge say?
They let me go on personal bail or bond, the one that you don't pay, but if you now
commit to come.
Yes, you commit to come. If you do not go, if you don't show up, then now you'll be made to pay that bond or bail. Yeah,
Personal bond.
personal. Yeah.
So then, do you have another hearing? And then, if the charge sheet was faulty, what is the second hearing for? To the best of your knowledge.
So after the second, the date was set for 20th, and on 20th, basically the judge said the charge sheet plus what you're accusing her of doing does not meet the threshold of a crime. So there's no
Charge.
charge,
To answer.
and basically there's nothing, as in I was discharged
Oh,
from.
that's good.
Yeah, so there's no more hearings, no more. It ended there.
We're going into a break. We're with Rose Njeri Tunguru, civic tech activist and active citizen and injector. We'll come back after the break and just learn a little bit more about what happens now. Where does Rose go from here? What tools is she developing? And yeah, just civic tech, that space that it occupies, and how we can continue to see it grow. We'll be back on Fixing the Nation.
Smallest ever anakwambia it's mimi ndio nimetuma was affirmation.
Nimesema kikombe. Pole, smallest ever. Pole. By the way, pole.
Just like my bad.
My bad. Honestly.
Slip of the tongue.
Yes.
Peter Otieno says, good morning, Fixers. Give the patriotic coda thumbs up. That's to you, Rose, for sharing her experience. Interesting. Maybe we need to be more, to ask more about the Cyber Crime Act. For sure, I think we've said that before. Bakari Sagna, can Rose explain the odious debt analysis tool that she created recently? How has it been received? We'll come to that in just a moment. Emmanuel Templar says, after recording her statements and realizing she wasn't spamming, they should have let her go. These are narcissistic, dark-hearted people who will withdraw the case when the issue is out of the news. Okay. So...
It's out already. The case is done and dusted. She's no longer facing any charges.
But she's still keeping up the work. Talking of the ODS debt tool that someone is asking, that was Templar, Shindigiti.
Bakari.
No, Bakari.
Bakari
Yes.
Sanya.
Yes, Bakari asking about the ODS debt tool. Please tell us about that as well.
Okay, so first of all, I was not. This is based on a court case that is in front of the judges at Milimani. I was not part of the petitioners or anything, but as I told you, after my arrest, I've been following up. I've been learning more about the debt situation, the budgeting, because most people focus on the budget. Everyone now knows what the finance bill is, but we don't bother to look at the expenditure side. So I came across this case via Okia Omtata. He's the one who petitioned it, him and 8 or 9 other people. And they're suing the state for borrowing money that does not go into our development. And they've done the work, they've gone through. So every year, when the budget is being prepared, the counties also submit the expenditure, and then it's collated into a national government thing. So we are able to keep track as independently as Kenyans to see, okay, so this was what was budgeted, this is what was spent. And they've been able to look at the numbers, specifically in their case, they mentioned that from 2014, 2015, that fiscal year, to 2024, 2025, there's money that was borrowed that did not actually end up in development projects. And we are paying.
It was borrowed for development.
It was borrowed for development, and that's why our bill, our finance bill, every time keeps going up, because we are paying for something that is not in the end benefiting us.
Yeah.
So they've done the math, and specifically they mentioned that in 2014, 2015, USD 7.1 billion was borrowed, but in that same year, the money that was collected from tax and from now the other borrowings that were done properly through the Public Finance Management Act and through Parliament's approval would have been adequate to cater for whatever now was spent on development. But this Eurobond, this 7.1, is not being seen, like ilitumika wapi. So in their studies, in their research, they find out this money, and it wasn't borrowed at once, it's like 2 billion this year, 2 billion like that, was being banked in private accounts, offshore accounts, which is against the Public Finance Management Act.
True.
And so basically, hii pesa imeenda kwa mifuko ya watu. Haiendi kwa development yetu. And then there's also other, on top of the Eurobond, there's also other concealed odious borrowings of 6.9 trillion. And then what also we need to understand, which is what I was trying with the website, the odious debt website, is to explain that this money is si pesa kidogo, it's trillions. If you have 1 billion right now and you wanted to exhaust it, you'd have to spend 100,000 daily for 27 years to finish that 1 billion. And now we are talking trillions. And this explains, the red bottoms we see and the expensive watches, the outfits that can like feed a school. This is where that money is going, basically. But now these are allegations that are, in this case, that a group of Kenyans that looked at and actually assessed, and they're like, based on the accounts given by Treasury, hii pesa iko wapi? And actually, something also that's interesting is that they state that some of those loans that were borrowed weren't borrowed with the permission of Parliament. Like they didn't follow the Public Finance Act guidelines. And then now they are also being put in personal accounts, or like not in the accounts that they're supposed to go to.
Right.
So you see, that's a problem.
A big one. We have we do have procedure as far as debt, as far as taking debt, as far as spending it, as far as accounting for it, all of that. And like you said, the Public Finance Management Act, all of those are there to guide how these things should be done. If I want to access this as a Monanchi so that I can have a look and see what our debt situation is, yes, how do I access that?
So on my website, it's called odiousdebt.vassel.app. I look at all those numbers, but in a very on top way. But at the very bottom there, you'll find all the documents detailing everything. So you can independently look at them yourself and see what these petitioners are claiming and who they're asking to pay this money. Because in the end, in those documents, they also claim that, so according to CBK in 2024, Kenya has a debt of 10.7 trillion, which is, let's say, 11 trillion. That's what's pending. And we've repaid in that period from 2014, 2015 to 2024, 2025, we've repaid 8.9 trillion. However, the money that was properly borrowed, following the procedures, and that can be tracked, that this went to this development, is about 5 trillion, 5.2. Okay,
That's
and
so
we've repaid 8 trillion. So
we've repaid.
Yes.
Yeah.
So essentially, ile yenye iko juu ya hii 6 trillion is what we are saying we shouldn't be paying for, because it didn't go to our development things. It went to someone's pocket. Okay, so that's
someone
the
is the one who should pay.
Exactly.
Yes.
Arudishe hiyo pesa.
Yes.
And then you see, consequently, if that were to happen, the finance bill that we keep getting every year also goes down. They stop now trying to tax everything, because now the money that's already right now, when they collect the taxes and whatever loans that they get, 73% goes to paying these loans. But we're saying these loans don't benefit us.
No.
So we shouldn't be paying for this. So I think that's an interesting case, and I think that's why, as Kenyans, as you as a Kenyan Maliuko, you should be following this case.
Yeah, you should know it
What's that-
fully.
What's that link? ODS debt dot.
Vercel, vercel.app.
Is there any other way to interact with it? Is it just purely for reading? Is there anything that people can share or update, or it's just purely for information?
At this point, it's just a static site
Okay.
that's just sharing information, but also sharing the PDFs themselves.
Yeah. How do we progress civic tech when there's so much digital surveillance now? I mean, that's probably come to mind for you.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
there was a lot of surveillance. What are your thoughts on how we can protect civic tech when there's so much surveillance around it?
Because of how petty they've become with their arrest, they can arrest you for anything. They can arrest you for a tweet. I think the best way is just to follow proper the standard best practice for cyber security. So, for instance, protect your passwords. Don't use. Okay, let me tell you something. By the way,
By the way.
like that way.
Kama ni siri tuambie behind the scenes.
Siri, hapana. My comp that was taken was my home comp. I use it. I'm the only one who uses it.
Right.
So I was using Google Password Manager to store all my passwords, and I was logged in everywhere. Like, ni yangu, ni ya home. Hakuna mtu mwingine anakuja kuchokora. So when they took it, they had access to
Everything.
Wow.
So, as a standard, even for you, you should probably use a password manager, first of all. Second, don't remember
You
your
said
password.
you just had Google Password Manager.
Yes, no, but Google Password Manager is, if I have your Gmail, I have your everything, because it's Google. But if you use a private,
An
independent
password manager.
they also have like a fail safe, so you can be logged out immediately out of all your accounts, and you can change your passwords quickly. You see, I didn't have that because they have
You didn't have your
everything.
gadgets, yeah.
They can access everything. So that's something I will always advise. Don't stay logged in on your accounts, especially on shared computers. Don't use biometrics on your phone, because let's say you're caught like I was, they'll just
Put your finger there.
or
On your face.
yeah. So there's certain standard things that we are always told, especially if you're in corporate. I'm sure you're trained, you're told, usifanye hivi, don't click on links you don't know, that you ignore. But now I'm practicing very keenly, because that's one way to protect yourself. And another is also to basically be careful that you're not actually committing crime.
Yeah, that's
You're
very
not
true.
That's very
like,
critical.
Don't
you're not-
commit crime.
Yeah, don't commit crime.
Before you do anything, go to the act and just be like, is this within what I'm supposed to? Although the same act is being weaponized, so
Yes,
very
that's
tricky.
another thing. It's also being weaponized. So at this point, it's whatever happens. But at the same time, just try not to.
Yeah, those are good
usitukane
tips.
watu, usi nini.
operates within the law.
Yes.
But then now the question is, how else do we use tech for civic education and for good? We've seen the last year has been beautiful to watch. Tech is everything from the TikTok that you do in your mother tongue to the application that you create for, public participation and feedback, all of that. But are there ways that we are perhaps sleeping on, in your view, things that we haven't thought about for civic education?
Well, I suppose, I don't know. It's always open, because it's basically asking how else can we use it creatively, and maybe mefika hapa, but there's someone who can look at a new way of us using tech.
Yes.
And so I suppose my message would be to Kenya, be creative in your activism, in your speaking out. Teach us these ways, because everyone is here to learn, and tech is always evolving. So teach us, show us these things, and but as you say, the way it's already being used is
amazing.
Is amazing. If this was the 90s time ya Moi, and people could just go online and break things down in local languages, communicate, like niko Mombasa, we uko Kisumu, but we are able to see that this thing they're doing is not right. If that was possible, then who knows where Kenya would be right now. Yeah.
I have the question I want to ask is, tech is like the future of public participation, right? So what do you think can happen beyond protest? I'm trying to see if I'm making sense of the question, because we're all trying to be like, where do we go next?
Yeah.
So how can we integrate this into the next frontier of protest, given that the protest that we know about and that we're familiar with is being clamped down on? How do you think civic tech can maybe be that frontier?
I think at this point, the frontier is information sharing, is being aware of what is happening, how it's affecting you. That also, the creation of ideas, basically the intangible bit of it, because they won't kill your idea. They won't shoot you down the street. I mean, okay, maybe they will, but they won't shoot your idea. So if you're able to, if we could use tech to share, first of all, to keep them in track. Ever since my arrest, I've noticed there's people who've created many interesting things. There's someone who created something called Bunge Beats, where he's using AI to collect, analyze what they discuss in parliament. So you can go there and search, what did so and so say yesterday in Bunge. See, that's a thing. That's information sharing.
It is.
There's someone who's always breaking down the bills. It's called Atshobanes, who's always breaking down the bills. Like, okay, there's this bill being passed. This is what it's saying. See, that person wouldn't be able to reach us if it wasn't for tech.
Yeah.
So at this point, I think the next frontier is just ideas and communication of what's happening, keeping us in track, keeping them in check.
That's good.
And sharing of information. Looking at what Shoba is doing. Shoba is just going and breaking down bills and information and putting it on a thread, saying, so this is what I've found so far, and so on and so forth. Something like Nelson Menya was doing, and he continues to do, and many others. How can we support? How can other people support? Because, I mean, you're taking a lot of time doing this. How can people support either, manpower or financially, mental power, and so on and so forth, with information?
First of all, for guys like you, you have like your broadcast, you have
Who's guys like you now?
News people.
Okay.
You have
Nakach.
We could just assume that she's talking about
guys like you.
Is it? Are you talking about guys like us who are in profession?
Yes.
Or guys like us for exposure?
You guys who speak to people every day in the news, on TV, you have a far wider reach than us on our little social media platforms. So highlighting these things helps. Bringing these things to our attention helps. There was a time last year, there were a couple of agricultural bills that were being, I don't know where they are in the process, but they were so bad for farmers, like in the long run, like things like you need a degree to farm. to do your subsistence farming there, which doesn't make sense. So if you bring that to our attention, because again, there's this idea that these things they discuss are abstract, they're in parliament, ni ya gava, hiyo ituhusu. But sasa ukiniambia nikuwe na degree ndo ni lime kwa shamba yangu, sinaona inanihusu. But if you don't like communicate to them, it gets to pass and it gets to affect them in the long run. So
I agree.
one thing is, for broadcast media, highlighting these things helps.
Very true.
I'm trying, sorry, Mariam. I'm trying to log on to this odious.vassal.app.
Is it?
Is it odious? O-D-I-O-U-S?
Yes,
Odious. I-A-S.
It is.
And that's the D, with the D-E-B-T.
Yes.
Yes.
Dot V-A-R-C-E-L dot E-A
Dot APP.
A-P-P. Inaletea page nyingine hapa.
Yeah. Oh, wait.
.vassal.app.
What's it bringing for you?
Let me see if I get the same thing. I've gotten .app. Let me see if I get the same. Yeah, I get Kenya's ODS debt. Then the website is designed to help Kenyans understand the ODS debt petition currently before the court. It breaks down the case in simple language so that everyone can grasp its significance. Since the matter affects us all, we have included full case files at the bottom of the page for those who wish to review the petition in detail. This is a public interest case, and as a Kenyan, it's something that deserves your attention. And then there's now the claims of ODS debt, 6.95 trillion, 7.1 billion billion US dollars of a Eurobond, and more. Then we go to view analysis, an explainer of ODS debt, which is, imagine a family where the father secretly borrows money using the family name. He doesn't ask if the wife or children, he does not ask the wife or children, and he doesn't use the money to help the family. He spends it on himself or wastes it. Later, when the lender comes to collect the money, they ask the whole family to pay it back. The family says, we never agreed to this loan. It didn't help us. Why should we pay for it? So ODS debt means loans that were never agreed to by the people, did not benefit the people, were used wrongly or corruptly by leaders. And then there's an overview of the petition, some explainers for unlawful borrowing, unaccounted Eurobond funds, unconstitutional amendments to the Public Finance Management Act, ODS debt doctrine, basically explainers, the nature of the case, the petitioners, the respondents, who include former President Uhuru Kenyatta, the Treasury, the IMF, and others. Interested parties in the petition, including the Law Society of Kenya, the Katiba Institute, Transparency International. And then there's a debt analysis.
It's quite
breaking
detailed.
down
Yes,
this information
yes.
in a way you can read as you scroll.
The way I'm doing right now.
Which is good. A lot of people are saying, Jade's ex says, kindly share the website. Dan Eve, someone share that website. So yeah, we'll try and make sure that
odious.vassal VAVERCEL.app. Okay?
Yeah.
And that's it. That's all. ODS debt.
That's all. We hope you've gotten it. We have a minute to time. I was going to ask, with all the intimidation, what keeps you going? But I think you've spoken to it. For you, it's about speaking truth to power and ensuring that we're also engaging with the issues that affect all of us. Yes. I think it's incredible to see you do it, because I know that sometimes a lot of these issues to do with intimidation, etc., are supposed to break you. But they always say, you thought I was, what is it? What's that saying? You actually
buried me.
You thought you buried me, but I was a seed.
A seed, yes.
I think Rose encompasses that completely. It's like, oh no, I'm a seed. I'm just here to grow. So thank you for what you do.
Thank you so much for having me and for letting me share my experience.
Thank you for, again, the amazing work, and please do continue. We have an amazing community of techies, online and offline, and I think you are among them. You're doing a fantastic job, and everyone in their corner. That's why we say Fixing the Nation, one conversation at a time, one Chrome extension at a time, one app at a time, all of that.
That's a good one, Mariam.
One court case, one court case at a time, and so on and so forth. So thank you so much for the work you're doing. We're taking a short break, but when we come back, we'll be discussing crypto, mambo ya pesa.
Virtual
Assets. That's the word I was looking for. Virtual NFTs are still on my mind, guys. We'll be talking about the bill that's currently on the floor of Parliament to regulate virtual assets and all of that. Uko na NFT ngapi?
NFT hype.
Okay, but crypto. Okay.
We shall understand that shortly.
Okay.